Hey, everybody. Michael, Bryson, Riley here. Say hi, boys.
Hi, boys.
We have some exciting live show announcements. Don't apologize. We're having fun.
For the worst joke in history.
I'm just mad I didn't think of it.
We've got 2 live shows coming up in the next few weeks. First, we have our Summer Clubhouse live stream on June 24th. That's a Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on popclounge.com. All you need is a screen, internet connection, and a ticket. Go to popclounge.com to get those. And also, if you want to spend a little additional moolah, pick up a VIP pass and spend a little one-on-one time with Riley, Bryce, or me after the show. That's our Clubhouse live stream on Saturday, June 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern. All right, popclounge.com. Then, if you want to see us live in person, come to RTX Festival in Austin, Texas, July 7th through the 9th. You can get tickets for that convention at rtxaustin.com. It's a gaming, comedy, podcast, and animation festival. We're going to be performing a live show there. We're still waiting to hear the exact date that we will be, but we will let you know as soon as we can. But if you pick up an ultra or premium pass for the weekend, you're definitely going to see us there.
This is a road trip opportunity for you and your friends. Meet us there, hitchhike with a Bigfoot, whatever you got to do.
Whatever it takes.
Get there.
Yeah, that's right. All right, everybody, stay tuned to our Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club for updates on these live shows. Otherwise, we'll see you very, very soon. Enjoy the show!
Bigfoot Collectors Club.
Big Hairy Summer.
Hello and welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
You boys know I just try to hide a burp. Why hide it from all of you?
I
was really struggling to get through that one. I'm very excited today because, well, not only do we have an amazing guest who we're going to get to toot sweet, as they say, or as they no longer say, actually. I don't know the last time.
Yeah, I was going to say, who says toot sweet? What does that mean?
Dead people say it. Guys, I'm so excited. We're back. We're kicking off our big summer event. Summer 2023 marks the 65th anniversary of the arrival of Bigfoot in America back on August 27th, 1958. Now, of course, yes, stories of Sasquatch existed before then, but the name Bigfoot was first used to describe a Sasquatch 65 years ago this coming August. So without it, this podcast would either not exist or probably be called something like Hairy Mountain Devil Collectors Club, which just doesn't, that's not as good.
Catchy.
So we thought, and now we're talking to you, the audience here, to commemorate 65 years of Bigfoot, we are officially kicking off this year's summer theme. It's the all-new theme, Big Hairy Summer. That's right.
How about that?
All summer long, baby.
All right.
Here on the regular show and on BCC The Other Side, we will be looking at stories of high strangeness involving big hairy monsters, furry cryptids, and of course, Bigfoot herself. So here to kick things off is the host of Little Curiosities with Kendall Long. Please give a warm Club Scout salute to podcaster, TV personality, and Bachelor Nation all-star Kendall Long. Kendall!
Woo! Woo!
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, we're so excited. Now, you're coming to us from Germany, correct? Currently? You're in Europe.
I am. Stuttgart, Germany. I am.
What?
Yeah, living in Europe.
Our
what
first
kind of
international
creatures?
guest.
Really?
Yeah. What? Well,
Yeah.
we just had Ryan Sprague on. He's in Scotland. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
in Scotland. That was
Oh,
like
Scotland's
count.
really cool.
That's true. What are there any like local hairy monsters or cryptids that you've heard of out there? Like, is there any local folklore? Like, in Germany? Like, is there any sort of weird boogeyman?
There are. Oh, yeah. There's a Krampus. So I went to a Krampus festival over Christmas, and the Krampus is the evil equivalent to Santa Claus, and he whips children with birch branches and steals them, I think, and he beats them up in bags. I don't know.
Wait, so did you go to the parade of the Krampus parade? I've seen footage of that.
I went to the Krampus Fest. So there's the festival, which is more of the kid-friendly version in the Christmas markets, and then there's Krampus Nacht, which is Krampus Night, and it's where they really go wild, and I think that's where they do most of their damage with whipping with the birch branches. But I wasn't a part of that, but I did get whipped at the birch branch. So
good.
Oh, nice.
As you do.
Well, if you're going to be there, you might as well get whipped with a birch branch. Yeah.
You have to.
When in Rome, as they say. But they also don't they also have a lot of bonfires burning during Krampus Nacht?
Yeah, I think each town has their own version of the Krampus. So they have these masks that are carved with wood and these little fire sections. I'm not sure if it's specifically because of the Krampus, but I saw them at other Christmas markets too. But yeah, the kids were loving it. They were messing with the children, taking off their hats and pushing them around. And
maybe it would be fun if those little fires were just on that night, they give all the children matches to play with, and the kids are allowed to go start tiny fires all around the village.
No, I mean, also there is a festival where they do burn some kind of giant marshmallow-looking man. That's another German festival.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
There's a lot of really interesting festivals around here that involve fire. So
wow, they know how to do festivals in Germany.
They really do. Yeah,
we're so far away from Christmas. Why is it going on right now?
No, it's when I first moved here. Was when the Krampus Festival. I moved here in December.
Gotcha.
Well, this week I went to the Frühlingen Fest, which is the Spring Fest. And I had a beer moss. I think it's called a beer moss, but it's basically a stein that's as big as your head. And it was ginormous. I did not finish it.
Sounds good. So, Kendall, I know you have some experience with taxidermy. I have a question. Have you ever stuffed, I don't know if that's the proper term, but have you ever stuffed a jackalope before?
Ooh, stuffed wood. I believe you are stuffing things inside of an animal, so I think that could be the right term. But not a jackalope. I've never stuffed a jackalope.
That's the only taxidermy sample I have in my house is a jackalope.
Ooh, do you think jackalopes exist?
No.
No? You never know.
He's got one in his house.
Well, okay, fair enough. You know what? This is Bigfoot Collectors Club. You never know. But I remember, I think you can Google, I didn't plan to research this, but you can Google, I think there's two dudes who started making them in the 1930s to sell at truck stops and stuff. But my sister gave me a jackalope for Christmas a number of years ago, and it hangs in my living room, and it's my favorite. I've loved jackalopes ever since I was a little kid. And when I was a kid, I did wander on road trips. My dad would be like, look out the window, maybe you'll see a jackalope. And I thought maybe it was possible.
Just to keep you occupied in the long car ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you should shut the fuck up, Dad.
There's a lot of really interesting taxidermy mix-ups. There's this one that I think is a deer's butt that they turn into a face. Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Yeah, those are great.
It's the weirdest looking monster thing. And when I first saw it, I was like, what the heck is this human face? But it was a butt. So
I think sometimes they sell those as Bigfoot faces, like Bigfoot heads. Deer butt. I'm Googling it now. Deer butt taxidermy. I'll send this to you guys in the links so you guys can check it out. We'll throw this up on the Instagram as well, Bigfoot Collectors Club at Bigfoot at Bigfoot Collectors Club. Yeah, this stuff is rad.
Kendall, what got you into taxidermy? Where did that start?
Just nature in general. I would go hiking when I was a kid, and in this little hiking area, they had this small natural history museum with all this taxidermy of the local animals. And I thought it was fascinating because I can finally see a bobcat up close or a mountain lion up close. And it's just a way for me to observe things that I like studying. So I always think taxidermy is nature preserved, like art, the art of nature preserved. So Yeah, I just like looking at things up close. It's interesting. I don't really know why.
No, that makes so much sense. We had one of those like nature stations at one of the local parks, and I always found it fascinating. And the smell was always kind of weird but comforting at the same time. Like, if you know what I mean, if you've been to like the museum section where there's a lot of taxidermy, I don't know, there's something comforting about it. And I love a good diorama.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good like glass case display with a really well crafted, like savanna with some antelope in there.
The Natural History Museum. At the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles, they have beautiful dioramas that have been around for such a long time. They were thinking of taking them down recently, and I was like, you can't, because there's so much history. Like, those are some of the first taxidermy pieces of animals from around the world, and there was so much work and effort that went into them. And so, yeah, I love it. I think it inspires so many people to be into nature and to even preserve more of the wild world that we have. So
I agree. Who needs, don't switch to holograms. Keep the dioramas. That's what I say.
Yeah. Keep the classic analog.
Exactly.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's big, hairy summer here at BCC, but that doesn't mean your summer has to get emotionally hairy or overwhelming, Riley, how often do you take time out of your very busy schedule for yourself?
I mean, truly not often enough. Between podcasts and bands and freelance career, it's really easy to forget to just stop and take care of yourself.
Yeah, it is so easy to get caught up on what everyone else needs around you. I'm in the same boat. We've got the podcast. Sometimes I got to manage, our schedule and booking guests and what story we're going to cover. And that can be stressful. And I don't want to take that out on you guys. That's no fun. I don't want to be bad Daddy Michael. You know what I mean?
I do.
Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. And as someone who has been in therapy for over a decade, I have to say it really has helped me in so many ways. Number one is just like some things that were weird in my life, like night terrors and waking up and thinking I'm seeing stuff in my room, like literal hallucinations went away when I just started talking to somebody at least once a week, because that's how my anxiety was manifesting itself. Another thing that's great about talking to someone is that they're there. That's their only purpose is to listen and talk to you and help you through your stuff. I'm not dumping all of my anxiety and all of my stress on the people in my life who love me, who support me, but may not have the tools to deal with the stuff that I'm going through,
And we, the people in your life, thank your therapist for that so much. Look, if you are thinking of starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge.
Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/BCC today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/BCC. So, Kendall, we have a question that we ask all of our guests. What, if any, is your personal paranormal history? What are your thoughts on cryptids, UFOs, ghosts? Have you ever experienced something that you cannot explain?
I definitely have experienced things I can't explain. And I say things because this is something that had happened to me and still continues to happen to me to this day. I have something called sleep paralysis. And when I experience sleep paralysis, I have these visions of these shadow figures that will take the shape of many different things, and they'll hold me down, or they'll spoon me, and I can feel them breathing on my neck.
Oh,
weird.
no.
They could take the shape of like people or dogs or sometimes like lions. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, it gets pretty creepy.
We've never heard, I mean, we're pretty familiar with this phenomenon, but we've never heard the term shadow lion before. That's pretty interesting.
Or spooning shadows. That's our first spooning shadow as well.
They do spoon. It's interesting because I feel it feel completely real, and you think that you're awake when one comes on. So, for instance, one time I was in my bed, and you can stand up and pace around and think you're awake, and then when I laid down, I would hear pacing in my hallway, like walking back and forth, and you feel like you're trying to hold off the presence as long as possible. And then as soon as you give in or you get too tired, it walked towards me, and then that's when it spooned me. And then you can feel it breathing on your neck and then
Crazy.
moving its arms on your body. And then before I would go to bed at night, most nights when I was younger, especially, I would hear it would sound like someone was dragging their body on the floor.
Oh,
That is
God.
And
so
so
wild.
I would get up out of my bed and try to find the source of the noise. And it just sounded like someone was like slowly dragging their body. It was really creepy.
I know you're not alone in the spooning thing. Actually, Bryce, you may have it may have just blipped your memory, but we had not too long ago an L file, a listener story called The Midnight Spooner, where someone described a similar phenomenon of some entity feeling like they crawled into bed with them. The walking up and down the hallway stuff, that's familiar to me when I've had sleep paralysis. It always feels like there's busy activity in the other room, or I hear someone come into my apartment and walk around and I can hear talking, and I'm like, oh no, someone's in here, and I can't get awake to go protect myself or get them out. So that it's a really creepy thing when it happens. But you said it sounds like you're almost used to it now.
Yeah, it's happened so often. And so I almost miss it when it's gone. And I know that sounds weird, but it's because I've learned to turn sleep paralysis into lucid dreaming. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's been really cool when it does happen. It's almost as if you go through some, it's going to sound kind of woo woo, but you go through some
not
kind
on
of
this podcast.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. I'm in good company.
Yeah. You're right in our wheelhouse.
Okay, good. But you go through it feels like it's almost like an in-between world.
Yeah.
In between the waking world and the sleep and the dream world. And when you do lucid dreaming, it's almost as if you're in a completely different world with different rules. You can fly, go through walls, shapeshift into different animals. And you can train yourself to get better at it as time goes on. So it's such a wild thing. And without the shadow lion, as you will, that I would not have experienced that. So there's a positive.
Yeah, we've been talking about lucid dreaming quite a bit on this podcast, and the tactic you're describing is the harder one, because you actually have to like sort of get through that sleep paralysis stage, which includes like the feeling of other entities in the room, and it's very strange. I practice lucid dreaming as well. I've never been able to do it that way, so I always do where I try and it's called a awake initiated dream, or I forget the actual term. But
yes, when you try to stay awake as you're falling asleep.
Right, yeah, that's the one. It sounds like you're doing, which is extremely difficult. But it's a more successful if you can stay through those other entities joining your room, you can get to lucid dreaming quite frequently. What do you make of those other entities? I mean, they seem to almost be some sort of interlopers between the wake and the dream world. What do you make of those things?
There's so many. I've done a lot of research on it, and it's happened to me ever since I was really young. So I've talked to a lot of people about it, and some people would say that, oh, you're actually going through a different dimension, and those are creatures from a different dimension. I've heard people say that they're probably lost spirits, or I always thought of it. I justified it by saying that it was anxiety, and it was just my mind manifesting things because of anxiety to make myself sleep better at night. But I found that the more that I interacted with them in certain ways, I'd get stronger and stronger responses. So I tried to lucid dream when I was younger at one point, And I remember getting into that in-between world and then trying to walk out into it. And I remember feeling like my body was stretching, and there was this little girl, and these are shadow figures, so you don't see any distinct facial expressions. It's just pretty much a black shadow. But from what I saw, it looked like she was screaming directly in my face. And so I screamed directly back at her face. And then I remember being pulled back. Yeah. And then I remember turning my body, and this person, another shadow figure, was like, "Be quiet, Kendall." And then push. Oh, it's so creepy. I feel like I get chills whenever I talk about it, but you can interact with them. And now what happens, it's not as strong now. So when I go through the weird shadow world, sometimes there's just a guy with a blanket over his head, and he's just sitting next to me. And so I just get up out of my bed and I walk out my door, and it takes me into the dream world, and I can, have fun there. But you kind of have to go through that weird shadow world, at least in my reality of lucid dreaming. So
that's wild.
No, this is rad. I never knew about the connection between that sleep paralysis stage, the shadow beings, and lucid dreaming. I love this. I mean, because I'm constantly, when this happens to me, I am like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. So I never push through that. Use it
as a tool. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's scary. Of course, I still get scared when it happens. But don't fight it. What I do is I don't fight it. I let it happen. And when you feel like it's done, you have something called a false awakening, where you think you're awake in bed, but you're not. And that's when you do a reality check. So what I do is I close my nose and I try to breathe through my nose. And if I can still breathe through my nose, it means that I'm in the dream world. So you just get up out of bed, walk out, and you'll walk into some weird place. And it's so cool. You have to do it, especially if you already have sleep paralysis.
I don't know, Bryce. If you're ever interested in quitting this show and starting a new podcast, it sounds like you and Kendall might need to go start a lucid dreaming podcast.
She sounds way more experienced in it than me, just because it sounds like you've had more success getting into that dream world. I've just started again recently, and I've just been coming up dry. No success. I had one lucid dream about a week ago, and then I've been dream journaling again, and I have not been able to get back there. But I almost tried your the version that you're talking about, where you really just sort of try and stay awake as long as you can and slip through that membrane into the dream world. And I have such trouble with it because I get uncomfortable or right.
You feel like you have to itch yourself or do something.
Yeah. It takes a real meditative mind. It's so strange. They almost seem like, in death, people describe sort of transitory guides as well. It does seem like they are some type of alternate dimension where there's these I don't know, guides, for a lack of a better term, that sort of walk you along the way. There's something to that. I find it very strange. I think the dream world, and maybe even death, has maybe a lot of commonalities.
Yeah. You'll also have the same characters you'll see over and over again with lucid dreaming. They'll kind of revisit you over and over again. And I mean, I need to get back into it because I was doing it for a while, and it kind of goes in phases because it's a lot of work to lucid dream. You really have to focus a lot. You have to practice on recalling all of your dreams, writing in the journal, not being afraid of going through that shadow world, because you have to face it to get to the cool world, even if it is something you can kind of naturally do in your dreams or in your sleep. But yeah, I almost feel like you can live two lives. And sometimes I'd forget, was this something that happened in my dream world, or was this something that happened in the waking world? And that's kind of trippy. You almost can't differentiate between the two.
What are some of the more profound experiences you can remember while lucid dreaming or pushing through this? Did you ever have a holy shit, that was a cool lesson I learned or something?
Well, something really cool that happened was that you can shapeshift. I'm not going to say I'm the best at shapeshifting, because you almost have to already
you know
imagine
what? That's okay. If you can just shapeshift, you don't have to be the best at it. You know what I
mean? Look, I'm not a superhero, but so this one lucid dream that I had was so cool. And it was cool because the way I entered into it was different than I've entered into any other lucid dream, where all of a sudden I was in my bed and I felt like I fell asleep awake, and everything around me all of a sudden turned into this apricot color. My bed was floating in a world of apricot. And so I just looked up and I flew up into the ceiling of my bed, because I had a canopy bed. And I came upon like this beautiful beach, and then I was in the ocean, and I tried to turn into a dolphin, and I halfway turned into a dolphin. Where because it's hard, because you have to kind of already imagine yourself as something before you become it, right? And so your brain thinks, what is it to be a dolphin? And then I was kind of turning really fast in the waves, and then I would kind of go underwater and above water, and you could breathe underwater, and it was really cool to feel like you were in a completely different state. So that was a really cool experience. Some interesting experiences I've had is whenever I do something dangerous, like jump off of a building or do something that's really risky, I have to do a reality check again, because I don't want to be in the, you feel like you're actually there. So, I would do, when I was on top of a really tall building, I'd have to make sure I'm not going to die if I actually fall.
Yeah. So, everyone, just a little warning. If you invite Kendall to a rooftop party, just keep an eye on her. Just keep an eye on her.
She's in the corner holding her nose. I don't know.
Well, I do that sometimes because something that's really cool, important to practice is doing your, trying to do your reality checks while you're in the waking world, because it creates a habit for when you're in the dream world. So I do the reality checks kind of quite often, like whenever you go through a threshold or a door, you could either do the one you hold your nose or poke your hand through your finger through your hand. And if your finger goes through your hand, you're dreaming.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's another way to do it as well, because I used to just talk about it all the time. And then I would have a dream where I was talking about it, and I do the reality check, like, this is what you do. And I'm like, I'm actually dreaming right now.
Trippy.
So, yeah. I could talk all day about this. I love this stuff.
No, this is so synchronicitous. Like, we literally, I had my first lucid dream in a long time. We talked about it over on our Patreon a couple weeks ago. And I had the moment where I remembered I should do a reality check right now. And Bryce always talks about looking at the palm of your hand and seeing if it looks different than the details in waking life, which it did. And that's how I knew I was dreaming. But I'm curious if you've ever had, sometimes these stories go hand in hand with what people describe as like the alien contactee experience. Have you ever felt like you've contacted extraterrestrials or seen UFOs or flying saucers in any of these periods?
I feel like the closest I've ever gotten to any sort of communicating with something that was out of this world would be in the shadow world, because they're different than humans. And they communicate in different ways. You almost feel what they're trying to tell you, or feel their intention, as opposed to talking like a regular human would. So for a while, I kind of was thinking that could have been an alien experience, just because they would come through my window, or they would come through a source of light. And
yeah, that sounds very familiar.
It's non-terrestrial for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, and they would come in different forms. Like sometimes they would try to take the form of one of my friends, and even laugh like one of my friends, to trick me into looking at them. Cause I knew once I looked at them, then they could take over my body,
Great. Yes. No, we're here for this.
Yes. Yeah. The weird thing about that sort of the alien visitation is there are a lot of like common themes of sort of that sleep paralysis and entering that dream world. It gets really weird when you have other witnesses maybe across the street that see strange lights as well. And then you're going,
oh, wow.
Okay, well, that can't be. And then, there does seem to be some sort of physical element that comes along with a lot of the abductee or contactee experiences, which sort of eliminates this idea that it could be sleep paralysis inducing that. But there are these strange connections. It's such a mystery. But yeah, very weird.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think, Kendall, that you might just be a channel for interdimensional entities or ghosts? Like, have you ever had a ghost experience, like in your waking life?
It would be really cool. I can't say I've had any sort of ghost experience in my waking life. Things usually happen near and around the dream world for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's
the next step, is to see if you can take the stuff that you're tuned into in your dream life and bring it into your waking life as you're moving about the world. Maybe don't want to see shadow lions while you're, ordering a latte, but who knows?
They don't actually hurt you, right? So it'd be kind of cool if I saw a shadow lion walking around. Who knows?
I'd love a shadow lion as a companion, as like a sidekick. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
What is your take on these shadow entities? Like, do you feel like it's something that's originating from your mind in this sleep space, or do you feel like you're sort of contacting something that's outside of you?
You know, I feel like I've spent such a long time convincing myself that it was something that manifested itself inside my mind, because our minds are so insane. We don't know a lot about them. But it feels so outside of myself and something I can't control. So in that, I would say I'm the kind of person that doesn't think anything's impossible, but I do like to keep myself open for understanding. It could be something that that my mind can't quite wrap its brain around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's hard to say. See, I don't want to say it's not possible, because it does.
Right.
It
Yeah.
does feel like incredibly insane. I felt like I was schizophrenic for a while because of it.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
I mean, listen, longtime listeners to the show, though, this is like why I started going to therapy, was because of like night terrors and hallucinations I would have in the middle of the night. And like, the thing about it is, it does feel both equally self-created and something outside of yourself at the same time. So for me, I do think a lot of these things were a manifestation of my anxiety. However, even in my therapeutic sessions, I'd be like, I gotta say, though, there is this small percentage of me, like 10% of me, that's like, this does feel like something outside of me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's what's so weird about it. And if our brains and subconscious are able to do that, like create some sort of phenomenon or experience where you feel like an outside intelligence is making contact, then that in and of itself is fascinating. And we need to learn more about that, because that actually might start to explain some of the phenomenon that we experience in the waking world, like UFOs and Bigfoot and ghosts. Like, perhaps there is some sort of psychic network or subconsciously projected like thing that we all tap into, and we can perhaps even experience collectively or in small groups, certainly individually. So either way, it's all fascinating, and we're certainly open to it.
Well, the interesting thing is that because it's something that provokes so much fear, we tend to want to push it away.
Right.
We tend to want to ignore it, move past it, not really explore it. And I think maybe if you experience sleep paralysis, taking more time to actually look at it as opposed to hide from it, maybe that would give more answers. Because I can tell, I'm a chicken. When I'm hearing bodies dragging on the floor, I'm like, I don't want the bodies to be there. I don't want to talk to the guy with the sheet over his head. I don't want to, converse with the dude with the long limbs. But just like the girl that I looked at her face when she was screaming at me and I screamed back, you feel something there.
Yeah.
As crazy as it sounds, you feel like you're talking to something else. And maybe I'm talking to my own brain. Maybe I'm a little bit schizophrenic after all, but
No.
It is kind of cool.
Maybe that's just the way brains work. You know what I mean? In the middle of the night. We don't... Guys, doesn't the sheet over the head... Kendall, this probably won't mean anything to you, but we just did a series in April about Betty Andreasen, who had a UFO abduction experience, numerous in fact. And one of the things that she talked about in her hypnosis regressions was crossing over to an alien realm guided by alien beings that put black cloths and sheets over their heads as they went into the next realm. And that sent up a little light for me when you said that, Kendall. I was like, well, that kind of sounds like the stuff that Betty Andreasen described in her alien experience.
Oh.
And one of the more inexplicable things about it,
Yeah, because there are things that I feel are similar with everybody with it. And I have researched a little bit of sleep paralysis with the alien abductions. I can't say I've had anything like that, but a lot of people report having like actual physical marks after they go through these alien abductions and being transferred to actual ships. I mean, that's a completely different world. That's insane.
Well, Robert
Yeah.
Wagner in his book Lucid Dreaming talks about those sort of physical elements that you can bring back into the waking world. For example, in the dream world, if you wanted to heal yourself, or let's say there was an abrasion or an injury, you could create this healing energy ball and sort of heal yourself with it, and it would translate over into the physical world. So you can bring elements of the dream world back to you. In fact, there was this great experiment at a lucid dreaming convention or whatever, where everybody in the audience was sort of practiced lucid dreamers, and he said, and he had this box up on stage, and there was an item inside the box, and he had everybody focus on this box and what it looked like and the details of it. And he's like, when you get back to your rooms tonight and you go to sleep, I want you to enter into a lucid dreaming state. Come back to this auditorium, and I want you to peek inside the box and remember it. And so they all came back the next day, and about 80% of them were able to successfully enter into a lucid dream state. And about, almost, I would say 3/4 of them were able to go back to the auditorium, peek inside that box, and he had everybody write it down what it was. And I'll be damned, they were able to peek inside that box and claim what the item was inside of it. So the implications are just astounding as to what that's why I'm just so fascinated about it. And it's stuff like that just, there's got to be some type of connection with these strange experiences that people are reporting in the waking world, whether it's confronting a Bigfoot out in the woods or seeing strange lights and its piloted occupants at night. There's a lot of research that needs to be done, I think.
What Bryce didn't tell you was that item was a taxidermy deer butt made to look like a face.
That's what I saw. Is
With
that
a
what you
little
guys
sign
saw?
that said, "Gotcha."
Gotcha.
That's probably what I would see in my lucid dream.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I've been drinking my AG1 by Athletic Greens every morning, and oh yeah, it makes me feel like I've started my day with a healthy choice for once. I get it before I take my coffee, and it makes me feel so good. It's so easy. It's just 1 scoop of powder mixed with water. Sometimes I do coconut water if I have it handy, just once a day. Boys, I know that you've been drinking your AG1. What do you love about it?
I, like you, I love the flavor. To me, this is a great foundational nutrition drink just to start my day. I mean, if you want to kick things off right, you might as well just go with some AG1. That's how I do it. So I really like this product, man. I think you guys will too.
Agreed. It's like first thing in the morning, I immediately feel the energy from it. I mean, this is something that I truly actually really like this product, and I've made it part of my daily ritual.
Yeah, I mean, why take a bunch of different things when you can just mix 1 scoop of powder in water once a day?
Exactly. AG1 was designed with ease in mind so that you can live healthier and better without having to do a lot.
Yeah, it also gives you increased energy and mood support, making it easy to live your best life. Not only that, I think you guys will really love how they package this product. Comes in a great container that you can store in the fridge, as well as this super convenient and awesome shaker. So give them
my shaker.
a check out.
It's now omnipresent on my kitchen counter. That shaker is out and ready to go all the time. If you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/BCC. That's athleticgreens.com/BCC. Check it out. All right. Well, we have a game that we like to play with all of our guests. I have a feeling I know the way this is going to go, but I'm going to go down a list of phenomena rapid fire. And if you're open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you're not open to it, you're going to say bullshit. Now, this is sort of like you got to make a choice here and there. We can circle back to any of these after you've called it. And if you want to unpack further why you said one or the other, we can do that. This is a game that we call bullshit
or believe it.
All right, Kendall Long.
Okay.
On your mark, get set, ghosts.
Believe it.
Bigfoot.
I want to believe it. BS, though.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Mothman.
BS. I got scared because of a Mothman one time.
Really?
Come back around to
We'll
that
circle
one.
back to that one. All right, now it's not just you, Kendall. I get strict with everybody. You got to stick to the rules here. You got to say bullshit
Oh.
or believe it, okay? You can use inflection, but we'll come.
Can I say BS?
You could say
BS if you don't want to
I
swear.
don't cuss. I know I sound so lame.
Oh, fair enough.
that's
Say BS.
great.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm the one making people curse, so that is fair. Curses. Speaking of which, curses.
Believe it.
Possessed dolls.
BS.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Believe it.
Hollow Earth.
BS.
There are alien constructs on the moon.
BS.
Psychic visions.
Believe it?
Dreams are really other realities, and when you fall asleep, you visit them.
Believe it.
Time travel.
Believe.
That was good. Bending spoons with your mind.
BS. I've tried. I mean,
We've all tried.
Entities, yeah, we've all done it. Entities from other dimensions visit our world.
believe it. Yeah.
Pets see spirits.
Believe it.
Tarot cards.
Believe it in a way.
The Loch Ness Monster.
BS.
The government is hiding the truth about Roswell.
BS. I haven't looked into that one as much.
We are living in a simulation.
Ooh, that's a good one. BS. Oh.
You, Kendall, could outsmart a werewolf.
BS. No way.
Planet Earth is a sentient macroorganism.
Believe it.
The universe is looking out for you.
Believe it.
Finally, in our original timeline, the famous Bears family last name was spelled Berenstein, not Berenstain.
Believe it.
All
There you
right,
go.
well done, Kendall.
Woo, well done.
I'm so sorry you don't curse, and now we've just been potty mouths this whole time.
No, it's fine. I
shame.
like when other people curse around me. It's just some weird thing that I have picked up ever since my mom made me feel guilty when I was a child.
Oh yeah, I was that way for a while, and then I hard rebelled against it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's circle back. There was one.
Yeah, we got a few to go back to.
Well, I want to hear about the Mothman story for sure.
Yes, that
Oh.
was it. Yeah. Well, how did the Mothman scare you, Kendall?
So I went on a camping trip one time. It always starts with a camping trip with the Mothman.
Sure does.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine and he really wanted to freak me out. Like it was just one of those camping trips where he kept on bringing up all these stories and he told me about the Mothman. And we were driving on our way to this cabin in the middle of the night. And he was saying that he saw eyes in the the mirror in the car.
Oh,
and he was
no.
trying to make me think, but he was really going for it. And so he tried to make me think that we were being chased by a Mothman. And because he was telling me the Mothman story before that. And then he wanted to stop to do this light photography or the stars photography, when you do the long
Sure.
exposure.
Mhm.
And he kept on being like, oh, I think I heard something in the woods. And it just freaked me out. And
This
I don't know if the
sounds
Mothman
borderline
exists.
abusive.
it was borderline abusive. It was. So, needless to say, I don't know if it was the Mothman that scared me. I think it was my imagination imagining the Mothman that scared me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the Mothman is certainly one of the scariest cryptids for sure. It's creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just glad to hear people are still trying to scare people with Mothman stories as they're driving through the night. That kind of makes me happy. I was like,
Yeah, keeping
nice.
it relevant. Yeah.
Price is on his side.
The fears in the heart. Wasn't the original story there was these claw marks on the side of the car, and there was
Yeah.
these
Mhm.
teens that were chased by something.
Always starts with necking teens. Yeah, they saw it at a TNT factory in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, in I think 1967, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently this creature chased these kids back to the police station, all the while sort of swooping down and clawing their car. So when they got to the police station, there was trace evidence of something interacting with their vehicle. And yeah, the sightings continued after that by dozens and dozens of witnesses.
Yeah. I hear it's either a big, giant, scary owl or there is a Mothman out there.
Yeah. Some people say
Yeah.
a crane. It was a crane, which I think I don't know if a crane would really, scare people
with
that
vengeance. Yeah, I don't know. Birds are really scary. I mean, I love birds, but you mean like a crane bird?
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure. I was talking about the right crane before I went down the whole tangent.
Could have been a construction crane, maybe.
that would have left marks in a car. But one time I went to, I forgot where I was, but there was these pelicans, these giant pelicans, and there was this fisherman that gave me some fish to feed them. And I was sitting in between these pelicans, and they were like velociraptors. I swear, I could see the connection between dinosaurs and birds after that, because they were just like snapping and hissing at me, trying to get at this fish that stank so bad. And so it could be a crane.
Little dinosaurs. For
They
sure.
are.
Birds are little dinosaurs. Absolutely. My sister has chickens. Just watch the chickens for 5 minutes. You're like, yeah, that's a tiny T-Rex. That's all that is.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Believe it.
It's true.
No, I know.
Guess what, guys?
She
Take a
was
look
talking
at
about
birds'
those
feet.
scary cranes, and you went to chicken. I'm like, I don't know. I'll go with Kendall's story.
Next time
Fearsome
you're
chickens, man.
Next time you're at a petting zoo, take a close look, Bryce. You'll see what I mean.
Yeah, you're right. The talons.
Let's get into this week's story of high strangeness. And Kendall, you kind of set me up well for this, because before we dive in, I wanted to ask you, because you said you want to believe in Bigfoot. When you think of Bigfoot, when you think of the entity, like, what do you picture in your mind, Sai?
I picture that classic picture of it could be a guy in a suit, could be an actual Bigfoot. So that's what I picture when I see Bigfoot. Yeah.
Do you think of Bigfoot as like a relic species or like a singular figure?
I think of it as a singular figure, but for it to exist as long as it has with all these stories, it would have had to have multiple in its species, right?
Sure.
Right. I think so too, but that's great. You gave me exactly the answer that I was looking for, because we're gonna this is gonna crack open a much longer conversation that we're gonna have all summer long on Big Hairy Summer. And to kick this event off, I've prepared a little appetizer spread of high strangeness to wet your whistles, a little sampler platter, if you will, before we go on to the main course this summer. Now, this might even be the cocktails that we sip on while we wait for our table. Now,
it's like a Sasquatch charcuterie.
Exactly.
A Bigfoot poo-poo platter, if you will.
Yeah, we're just gonna start dipping our toes into Big Hairy Summer. So this is great. We're like waiting for the tables. We're at the bar or whatever, and we're getting ready to go into the restaurant. Whatever metaphor works for you. Now, obviously, when it comes to cryptids, it's safe to say that Bigfoot is king of the forest. But what about the other legendary woodland creatures in American folklore? I think it's well past time we pay homage to some of the lesser known, but no less charming, big hairy monsters lurking in the woodlands, swamps, and hillsides of America. In the early parts of the 20th century, tall tales of these animals were traded by loggers, trappers, pioneers, and hunters to warn one another of the dangers that lurked in the uncharted parts of the American frontier. Blamed as the causes of unexplained phenomena and used to frighten and amuse one another on chilly nights around the campfire. Collectively, these legendary critters became known as fearsome creatures. And what we know of the menagerie called Fearsome Creatures comes to us from the book Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods, written by William T. Cox and illustrated by Coeur du Bois and published in 1910. The book features fantastic illustrations of whimsical and imaginative animals comparable to those coming out of L. Frank Baum's Oz books of the day, and many of which would later be inducted into the wizarding world of Harry Potter. So some of these you might have heard about if you grew up reading Harry Potter. The text collects the stories and descriptions of these fearsome creatures passed around by lumberjacks back in the day. Creatures with names like the cactus cat, the gumbaroo, the slide rock bolter. A handful of these beings would also be inducted into the realm of cryptozoology, although it is generally accepted that all of these animals are complete works of fiction and an early example of metafiction. So, Michael, you might be thinking, if these animals are fictional, then why are we discussing them in this week's story of high strangeness? Well, dear listener, for a couple reasons. One, some of the characteristics possessed by these beings mirror those we've heard about in Bigfoot lore. And the emergence of the legend of Bigfoot in American culture in the 1950s was introduced by the next generation of loggers and lumberjacks working in many of the same areas where their predecessors created the stories of these fearsome creatures. So in some ways, Bigfoot lore was born out of this tradition. A lot of these tales were ways for seasoned lumberjacks to haze the new kids. In Bigfoot, The Life and Times of a Legend, author Joshua Bluebus writes this. As I scramble to open the page in my book, which I have right here. For decades, seasoned veterans had funded greenhorns, the new kids, with tales of side hill dodgers and mosquitoes so big that they sucked cows dry, and by having them fetch the equally legendary left-handed wrench, or they sent them to hunt snipes. Such joshing, especially among working-class men, served to initiate novices and cement relations on the job. Teasing was a way of testing and proving one's masculinity. Coming up with a joke showed cleverness. Withstanding the ribbing and responding in kind displayed strength, which was necessary to fitting in. Tales about legendary creatures also helped those who worked far from civilization to manage their anxieties, and thus fear was made to seem absurd. So you're sitting around, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're freaked out, you might, they're bears, there are real creatures in there, there might be unexplained phenomenon happening. So these lumberjacks and loggers and hunters are all sitting around, ribbing each other about what dangers are out there. And it's kind of a way to make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable and to initiate the new kids.
And to make sure that they can also, I've read about this too. It's also, that kind of ball busting on those tough jobs like that. They do it to like weed out the people who aren't going to last. So if you can't take a good natured ribbing, they're going to give it to you even harder,
Yeah, exactly. And you can draw a direct line between the tradition of loggers telling tales of monsters living in the woods to Bigfoot's emergence in pop culture in 1958. Now, I'm not saying that Bigfoot is a pure work of fiction, but just as there are in these stories, there's plenty of humbug and hoaxes involved when it comes to our big hairy friend. And part of what I want to do this summer is separate the wheat from the chaff here and set the folkloric myth of Bigfoot apart from what is experienced as the Bigfoot phenomenon. I think this is something that's been building on the show for a very, very long time. So much, Bryce, you know this from experience on Expedition Bigfoot. You experience things about the Bigfoot phenomenon that doesn't fit the category of some primate living in the woods, right?
Right. This is great. I'm glad you're doing this. This is much needed.
So whatever Bigfoot is, quote unquote, I think we can definitely agree on what it isn't. Kendall, you mentioned it yourself. It can't be a singular hairy being tromping across Northern California or all across the globe. That's the version that was passed down to us by these loggers and lumberjacks. You see, these stories that we're going to get into are important because they serve as a prologue, a little contextual set and setting out of which the story of Bigfoot emerges. So in the meantime, before we get into all that this summer, let's just gather around the campfire and hear about a few fun, fearsome creatures. The first one that I like is called the hide behind. At first glance, not that you'll ever catch a glimpse, the hide behind seems like a fairly silly concept. But when you compare its traits to the Sasquatch phenomenon, what is a comical figure quickly transforms into a personification of Bigfoot behavior. The hide behind is a tall, hulking, dark and hairy, nocturnal figure, in some depictions resembling an anthropomorphic dog. Its curved tail is said to resemble that of a French sheepdog's. In other cases, it's a shadowy beast that clandestinely stalks its prey by staying out of sight. Therefore, no one can truly say what the hide behind looks like. It quickly ducks behind trees as soon as the observer's eye falls upon its position, using its slender body to contort and stay completely undetected. Inexplicable sounds echoing through the forest at night are the sign that the hide-behind has clambered out of its underground lair, looking for its next kill. The creature is responsible for the disappearance of lumberjacks who walk into the woods and never report back to camp. It is said the hide-behind loves to dine on human entrails, and one way to guard yourself against the beast is with alcohol, a substance which the hide-behind detests.
Perfect for loggers, says it. Just like, if you want to stay safe, drink this. Yeah.
I better keep this whiskey on my breath, I suppose. But there you go. So the hide behind, we have the missing persons phenomenon, we have a shadow Bigfoot phenomenon, we have tree peeking. So a lot of these are all common in Bigfoot lore.
Ooh.
Next, we have the hodag. Now, this is a photo that I sent you, Kendall, and we'll put this photo up on our Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club. The gloriously ugly existence of the hodag was allegedly discovered in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, back in 1893. Newspaper headlines reported that a land surveyor by the name of Eugene Shepard had captured a monster with, quote, the head of a frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long tail with spears at the end, end quote.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Bit of a hat on a hat right there.
Yeah. It's a chimera. It's a chimera, if you will.
Right, sure.
Yes.
The chimeras had their heyday in the late 1800s. We don't have a lot of chimeras these days. It was said that the hodag was a supernatural creature born from the abuse of oxen by their owners. The monster was said to become extremely aggressive when agitated. Its favorite food? White bulldogs, which I take personal offense to, having been a proud bulldog father. It's one weakness.
They look so delicious, though.
I know they are. He was a fat little boy when I had him, and I did want to chomp on his legs. They look pretty meaty.
Right. I feel the same way with my dog. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. The hodag's one weakness: citrus. So if you have some lemon around or some limes. Probably pretty rare in those days, I would say. Some fresh citrus they probably didn't have out in these deep woods. So, but yeah, apparently they don't like it. Shepard, along with a posse, claimed to have rounded up and captured a sample of the despicable beast. Apparently, there were no lemons on hand, as the men claimed they destroyed it by blowing it up with some dynamite. A photo of the creature being killed was published in local papers, and the legend of the hodag was born. According to its entry in Fearsome Crittures, the hodag
is fully aware of his upsetting appearance and is given to frequent fits of bitter weeping. I once had a handful of the extremely rare crystallized hodag tears, but an inquisitive lady friend collected them, believing them to be fine amber. She had them strung into a neck yoke and then went and spilled a Tom Collins on herself. Of course, the lemon juice dissolved them instantly.
All right.
The audacity.
Yeah,
that checks out. That checks out for sure.
This is fun stuff.
Some tall tales right here.
I just picture that scene.
This is good stuff. So the real story behind...
Can we discuss this photo before we move on, though?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I mean, this looks like a Tom Waits album cover or something.
It very much does, yeah. This is like a bunch of Silver Lake hipsters from like 2003, like getting together on a camping trip.
They very clearly like dressed up a dog or something. Like what this creature?
I think the creature is some sort of plaster cast that they've posed, some sort of like mold or carving, and then there's about I'd say 80 men in bowler caps with mustaches and vests pointing guns and rakes at it.
And that poor guy in the bottom is getting mauled, I guess.
Yeah, that was the new kid. They're like, you get on the ground, you're gonna be
get on the ground, Tom.
The tail is what makes me not believe it.
The tail, yeah.
The tail's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, I'd say that might not be the only dead giveaway, Kendall, but you're right.
Facebook, I get,
I would say the
You know,
balance
people are
is
always
definitely thrown
asking
off for the tail.
for photographic evidence, and then when it's given to you, you just poke fun. I don't get it.
Photography
Yeah,
wasn't exactly like candid in this era too. It's like, you know how long that picture took to stage and set up, and then like now everybody hold still.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's really
Yeah.
something. This photo.
So the real story behind the Hodag was that the small town of Rylander was slowly depleting its main source of industry, trees. This meant that the town was on the precipice of economic disaster. Shepard started spreading stories of the Hodag around to drum up interest in Rhinelander. You know, if you want to help out a small town, give it a monster. A local monster always brings in business. He even went as far as announcing that he and a group of bear wrestlers managed to capture a live second creature, which he displayed at a local fair. This caught the attention of the national newswires and scientists from the Smithsonian Institute, who announced that they would be traveling to Wisconsin to inspect this newly discovered curiosity. It sounds like this specimen on display was just some sort of puppet or early what you would consider an animatronic on wires that would move around. Guests would come in like a circus sideshow, be scared, and run out of the room. And there are also rumors that P.T. Barnum came in and bought the Hodag before the Smithsonian Institute could get there. But the real fact was that Shepard had to admit that the creature was a fabrication of his imagination, because these men were going to show up and basically blow the whole thing. However, the Hodag, went on to become the mascot of Rylander, Wisconsin. And a statue of the monster greets you on your arrival into town. And officially licensed Hodag merch can be purchased at local stores and the town's Walmart. It seems like the Hodag is doing a sufficient job of keeping Rylander on the map, reminding us that sometimes creating monsters can be a good thing. Our third and final sample of the night is the Wampus cat. The Wampus cat is a large, six-legged animal that is part feline and part canine and hails from Idaho originally, although it's seen as far as the American South. The Wampus is blamed for lots of things going wrong in the natural world. For example, if a Wampus crosses a river, the fish won't bite for a whole week. So the Wampus is bad for mankind, making roughing it even rougher. It makes life a whole lot harder just by existing. The Wampus is a predator who travels by skulking across land, and it uses its powerful front four legs to propel itself at high speeds. It is also known for gliding gracefully through the lakes and streams. And some say it can even switch to bipedal mode and run about on its hind legs when necessary. Some say that the Wampus can be traced back to Cherokee origins. The first Wampus was a woman cursed by tribal elders to roam the wilderness as a feline monster as punishment for hiding beneath the skin of a mountain lion to spy on a sacred ritual. I say this with a heavy grain of salt because it's sort of hard to find clarification on whether or not this is an actual Cherokee myth or a story about the Cherokee people that colonists made up. Reports of the Wampus, or catawampus, a term for large unidentified animals, and unexplained large cats in general, ULCs, anyone, are spread widely across the U.S. In the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, the Wampus was blamed for a series of livestock mutilations that occurred across the American South, from North Carolina down to Georgia. Yeah. On February 15th, 1923, the Greenfield Democrat Sun reported that a reign of terror caused by raids of Wampus in the Virginia swamps claimed that the Wampus was behind all of these attacks, having, quote, eaten dogs, pigs, and other animals in the vicinity of Norfolk. So there you go. Again, cattle mutilations, weird swamp creatures in the South, mystery big cats. These are all kind of like things that we still experience today. Sometimes they're connected to Bigfoot lore. Sometimes they're connected to UFO lore. But the Wampus used to be blamed for all this stuff. So we got mystery big cats, vanishing hairy beings, cattle mutilations. A lot of these themes recur, like I said, in high strangeness, it really makes you wonder if the real prankster at play here is not some lumberjack getting one over on the new kid. Maybe it's some sort of cosmic trickster reminding us not to take reality too seriously, or at least pepper our fear of the unknown with a little absurd humor. That is a little history behind Fearsome Creatures. Kendall, what do you think?
I like that. You know, the one creature you were talking about, the hide behind, it made me think of how isn't there something with your eyes where you have more cones on the sides of your eyes or something, so you can see things in your peripheral vision that you wouldn't normally be able to see when you're looking at it straight on.
I love
read
that.
Something about that. Yeah, I read something about that. So it makes me.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar to me too. Yeah, and it's so you've got to be seeing shit out of the corner of your eyes when you're out in those woods. You know, Bryce, you've done it. You've got to be like, plus your senses must be so heightened.
Yeah, your head's on a swivel, man. Absolutely, you're always looking. I like that hide behind too. You're right. There is interesting. I didn't realize there were cattle mutilations going back that far. It does make you wonder, man. All that stuff. It seems to be pieced together in today's modern phenomenon of the paranormal. It's super strange.
Yeah, and if we're taking a left turn with this stuff, we've had examples of maybe tulpas, things that we've created as a culture coming real, that it's possible that some of these fearsome creature stories started manifesting themselves, in reality. But I love this book. I highly recommend it. Yeah, you can grab this. It's just a small reprint of the original book. It's pretty cheap on Amazon or whatever bookstore you want to go to. And there's just great old-timey illustrations of these monsters and lumberjacks getting attacked.
Is that a giant slug?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Big.
Kendall, yes, it is.
I accidentally ordered 2 of these, Bryce, so I'm going to give you a copy to give to Walker because I think he would really enjoy the stories and drawings in this. But yeah, so
I do really like that idea, Michael, though, that sort of the paranormal is a way of tempering our fear of the unknown or our fear of mortality, and sort of like couching it in this sort of absurdism is a way sort of for the human mind to accept, the unknown and the darkness and all the sort of scary things, and just keep moving forward in the face of that. I think that's a cool thought.
Well, it's just kind of like what Kendall, you were talking about with, if you can get past the shadow entity stuff, you might enter a realm of like discovery and wonder but you got to get through the fear of it first.
You have to run towards the fear. It's the only way you'll find out what's in the shadows, right?
Don't drive away from Mothman. Just head right up to him.
I should have stopped and confronted Mothman when I had the chance.
That's right. All right, everyone. Well, that's just the beginning of Big Hairy Summer. Kendall Long, thank you so much for being here for that. Where can people tell us about your podcast before you leave, and where people can find it?
So you can find my podcast, Little Curiosities with Kendall Long, anywhere you get your podcasts. I do have an episode coming up where I talk about sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming, 2 different episodes. So that's something I've been doing a lot of research on. And I love that we brought it up today because I could just geek out about it all day. This was such a fun conversation. I love your guys' podcast. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. And guys, if you love weird history and just looking closer at what it is to be human and weird, quirky stuff in the natural world, definitely check out Little Curiosities. It's a really, really fun show. I think everybody listening to this would really, really like it. So, you're on the podcast app right now. Head over there and just click follow and start listening to Kendall's show.
Yes.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Kendall, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Same. Likewise.
All right, listeners, you don't want to miss any of the fun that we have coming at you this summer. I'm telling you, we got some cool stuff planned. So follow the show on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app so you never miss a single episode. We want to hear from you, so rate and review us while you're over there. If you drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we might read it on the air, like this one.
This is from Elias B. Title, I love the podcast.
Aww.
This podcast is great if you like the paranormal. It gives me the good kind of chills and creeps when they talk about the ghost stories and guests' personal stories. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work, Elias. 5 stars.
Nice. Thanks, Elias.
Thanks, Elias.
Thank you. Be sure to
love
follow
that
us
review.
on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club and on TikTok at BCC Pod. Check out our merch store, store.bigfootcollectorsclub.com. Stay tuned. There might be some fun merch dropping this summer. So head over there and pick up yourself a little treat right now. If you've caught up on the show and you want more BCC, it's waiting for you right now on our Patreon, BCC The Other Side. Unlock 3 bonus episodes every month, plus our entire episode library, and you can upgrade to the Cosmic tier and unlock 3 additional BCC soundtracks by super producer Riley. Head over to patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub to check that out. And when you do, we will shout your name out on the air as a thank you. Guys, guess what? It's time for this week's Patreon shout-outs. Get ready, Riley. Your numbers are rising. The ranks of the Cosmeteers are growing. So here we go.
Great.
Edward Sheriff, Cosmeteer.
Thank you. Welcome.
Merlin Grubbs, Cosmeteer.
Oh, thank you. Welcome, Merlin.
Amber Fogarty.
Thanks, Amber.
Ricky, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, Ricky. Welcome.
Marco Perez R, Cosmeteer.
Marco, thank you. Welcome to the ranks.
Stacy Molina Graces.
Thank you, Stacy.
Meeple Druid.
Thank you.
Jim Lowry.
Thanks, Jim.
Allison Forrester.
Thank you.
And Jake Williams, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, Jake. Welcome.
Nice.
Follow me on Instagram at McMills. Boys, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm on socials as well, at Twitter at Bryce O. Johnson and on Instagram at Mr. Bryce Johnson. I'll see you there.
And I'm Peace Drone on Instagram. I'm also on tour right now with Tommy, opening for KT Tunstall. We're doing dates all over California. So check that out. And we have a new music video out for our new single, If You Tried. So look up Tommy If You Tried and come see us at a show.
There you go. Nice. One last thanks to Kendall Long. We're going to cross over to the other side for our first movie club of Big Hairy Summer. We're talking about cat people. We will see you back here next Wednesday for an all-new episode of BCC. Until then, good night.
And go get regressed.
Meow.
I did a lot of that watching that movie. A lot of claws in the screen.
Sexy flowers.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is executive produced by Michael McMillan, Riley Bray, and Bryce Johnson. Our show is engineered, produced, and scored by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters. Follow them on Spotify. Want more BCC? For exclusive full-length episodes every month and total access to the other side, check out patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub.